So first, what is an interstate compact? Well, if you're attending this meeting, you probably know a little bit about them, but I'll go ahead and give some background information anyway. So a compact is a legislatively enacted agreement among states, which just means that a compact is something that the state's legislature passes and the governor signs, and then the state will be a member of that compact. And it's an agreement between two states or a region of states, or it can even be all 50 US states and other jurisdictions. And compacts are also used to address a wide variety of policy areas. So of course, they can be used for occupational licensure, such as the counseling compact, but they can also be used for other transportation issues, border disputes, natural resource management, that sort of thing. One really common example of a compact is actually the driver's license compact. As all of you are probably aware, when you drive across the border from one state to another, you don't need to have a second license to drive in that other state. You just can continue using the license issued by your home state. And this is because states have agreed to mutually recognize each other's driver's licenses. And so the counseling compact works in a very similar way. And so, as I mentioned, compacts have been around for a long time. They're used in a wide variety of areas. And yeah, so now I'm going to talk a little bit more about why occupational licensure reciprocity is so important. So first of all, society is becoming more and more mobile. People are moving away from home for a long period of time, for a short period of time. People travel for work. That sort of thing. And so because of this increased mobility, there's also a need for greater mobility for occupational licensure as well. And additionally, there have been many technological advancements over the last couple of years that are enabling people to practice telehealth more frequently. And again, in order to practice telehealth, especially to practice it across state borders, occupational licensure mobility is very important to that as well. Another big issue for occupational licensure is access to care. So if you live in an area where access to a certain type of healthcare practitioner is sort of limited, or maybe you need to see a specialist in some field and it can be hard to access that due to distance or other issues, occupational licensure reciprocity can again help resolve some of those issues by bringing more practitioners into your area via telehealth or just general mobility. And finally, occupational licensure is a big issue for many members of active military or their spouses because of the frequency with which they have to move. And so because of that, the counseling compact and other occupational licensure compacts as well do include special provisions for those individuals to make their transitions smoother in terms of occupational licensure mobility. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the ways that compacts benefit different groups, starting with licensing boards and agencies. So one really important thing to note about the counseling compact is that states will still retain control of the scope of practice. So whatever a state has set out in its Practice Act as the boundaries for what counselors can or can't do in a certain state is going to remain. The compact doesn't interfere with that. And so practitioners are asked to make sure they're aware of what those restrictions are in the scope of practice. Next, states will still retain control of that initial licensure process, that first license that a counselor gets. That's something that will still be issued by a state. Compacts also facilitate the exchange of licensure and disciplinary information because compacts create a data system which helps states share this information. And similarly, compacts also improve cooperation in regulating the profession because, excuse me, sorry. Compacts also improve cooperation in regulating the profession because of the way that the compact pretty much requires states to work together. If there's any investigation types of issues, the states will work together under the compact in order to resolve those. Okay, now from the perspective of practitioners, we have addressed this a little bit already, but the compact will authorize practitioners, counselors to practice in other member states of the compact. And so it improves licensure portability there. And it also allows them to take advantage of new telehealth opportunities, whether that's something that they can take advantage of when they're traveling and continuing to work with their home state clients, or if the client is traveling, or if they're looking to expand the areas where they work into new states. And the compact also reduces the effort for individuals who are trying to maintain multiple licenses. So rather than having to maintain several licenses in all the different states where they work, they can maintain one home state license, and then all the other compact privileges will sort of stem from that license. Okay, so now from the consumer perspective, there are a number of benefits as well. First of all, the compact will help increase access to healthcare services, especially including through telehealth. And it will also improve continuity of care. So if a patient or client moves to a new state, it will be if that state is also a member of the compact, the process for a counselor to get a privilege to practice in that state where the client is located will be smoother. And so there's a greater chance that they could have continuity of care in that situation. Also, it promotes practitioner diversity. And so from the consumer perspective, if you have a certain type of linguistic or cultural background and prefer to work with someone who shares your same background, it's more likely you'd be able to find a practitioner who fits. And finally, healthcare specialists also face a lot of the same restrictions that others in the health field face with regard to occupational licensure and mobility. But the compact will help mitigate some of those issues as well. And so if you need to see a specialist of some sort, then as a consumer, the compact will enable that to happen as well. Okay, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about state participation in occupational licensure. Okay. So first of all, since 2016, there have been 230 separate pieces of occupational licensure compact legislation enacted. And 43 states, DC and Guam, are members of at least one occupational license compact. 35 states and DC are members of 3 or more. And there are 15 states that have enacted at least 6. So as you can see, there are pretty large number of states participating, and I'll show you a heat map later on of exactly which states fall into which of these categories. Okay. All right, so compacts take a pretty long time to get started. As Lynn mentioned, CSG has been working with ACA for, I believe, 3.5 years, she said, and so compacts do take a pretty long time from the drafting phase to the phase where they're granting compact privileges. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to all the different occupational licensure compacts that are currently in existence, starting with those that have been operationalized, which means that they are already granting compact licenses or privileges. So in this category, we have a compact for EMS personnel, nurses, psychologists, physical therapists, and physicians. Next, these are compacts which are available for states to enact and are in the process of setting up their data system and beginning to move towards granting licenses, but they are not granting licenses quite yet. So this would include the compact for APRNs, a joint compact for audiologists and speech language pathologists, compact for counselors, this compact, and occupational therapists. Sorry, okay, skipped over one there. And next, we have a list of compacts which are under development. So these are compacts that are still in the drafting stage. We are hoping that, I believe, almost all of these, except for maybe 1 or 2, will be available for states to begin enacting in 2023. But these are the compacts that are still, the draft is still being finalized before we're presenting it to states. And so the compacts under development include cosmetology, dentistry and dental hygiene, dietitian nutritionists, massage therapists, physicians, assistants, or associates, school psychologists, social workers, and teachers. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about the number of member states that each of the active compacts have. So there are 9 active compacts which are available for states to enact. And some of these have quite a large number of member states. So for instance, the compact for nurses and compact for physicians both have almost 40 members. And then if you go down the list a little farther, then you'll see the counseling compact, which has only 17, and the APRN compact, which has 3. And I just want to mention that those two have been around for the shortest period of time. So for instance, the Counseling Compact was only available for states to enact starting towards the very end of the 2021 legislative session. So most of those enactments came during 2022. And so we do expect that the membership for these compacts will continue to grow as they've been around for a longer period of time. Okay, and here is the heat map that I mentioned, which sort of indicates how many states, approximately how many, sorry, let me rephrase that, approximately how many compacts each state has joined. So you can go ahead and take a look and see where your state falls. Okay, and now I will go ahead and pass it on over to Carl for an overview of the Counseling Compact.